Hello and welcome to another episode on the Stretch Street podcast with the energetic EJ. Go EJ, go EJ, go EJ, go EJ, go EJ, go EJ, go. Woo, yes, I'm hyping myself. Thank you. Yes, if I don't do it, who will? Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you already know, I am still in celebration mode as I count down to my 150th episode. Oh my gosh. Yes, I am learning and getting more comfortable with celebrating my every single win. The little ones, the medium ones, the big ones. And so I am super excited and grateful and just grateful, really. My heart is full of gratitude for the journey so far. The experience has been tough, it's been rough, but I've grown through it. And I feel like it can only get better from here on. All the amazing people I've come to meet, come to know, come to become friends with some of them. And it's just been a beautiful journey. So yes, it's worth all the celebration. So join me July 14th. We are here live. This time on July 14th, we're going to be broadcasting live, okay? Live on YouTube. And later on that night, isn't it just beautiful that it's a Friday? Later on that Friday, on the 14th of July, we're going to have a live party in Dubai, sponsored by Christine Adolph. All right, I'm going to leave her details in the description of this video, just if you want to connect and see the amazing work that she's doing. All right, so thank you, Christine, for sponsoring my party on the 14th of July 2023. But yes, as we count down, of course, we have more guests coming on from all over the world. And today I have someone flying all the way from New York. She's been globetrotting. She's been everywhere and it's just lovely. I was so glad when I got her message like, EJ, I'm back in Dubai. We met sometime last year at the 1 billion summit put together by Nas Daily. And so it was just beautiful. She was there with her mom and it was just a beautiful experience. And now she's like, EJ, I'm back in town. We have to do a podcast together. I'm like, yes, let's do it. And so we're finally doing it today. So today on the show, I'm going to be hosting in a short bit, Alicia Munian. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but if I didn't, she's going to do that when she comes, okay? All right, so she is going to be telling us her own stretch story and the life lessons that she has learned from the experience. I'm going to let her this time around do her own introduction. She has, I think she wears a bit of hats here and there, or she has feathers on her hat, and she's going to come tell us all about it. So don't go anywhere. Grab your cup of tea, your cup of coffee, your bottle of water as we delve into the story. But before we do that, if this is your first time connecting with me, comment on my podcast, watching this on YouTube, or you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Teacher, Breaker, wherever you listen to podcasts on, you are welcome. Where have you been? But you're welcome. I'm glad you're here now. I'm glad you found me. And I hope that you're going to stick with me week in, week out as I bring to you stories of challenging seasons in people's lives and the life lessons that they learn from it. And what's the end goal? To inspire you, to remind you that challenges is not exclusive to any of us. We all go through challenges, but the important thing is that we draw out the lessons that those challenges are there to teach us, so that we don't keep going in cycles or circles, whatever works for you, right? Okay, so if you're here for the first time, please do subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, turn on notifications so that you get my episode as they drop. And if you're listening on any audio platform, please, you can go ahead and favorite us there. Give us 5-star rating or whatever star you want. It's good. I'll take it. Even if it's 1 star, I'll take it. All right, favorite us. And if you need to reach out to me, give me feedback, or you want to be featured on the podcast as well, you can send me an email to stretchstreetpod@gmail.com. Let's get you hooked. Okay? All right. Now, let me introduce you to my guest, Alicia. I'll be right back. Hello, 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 gorgeous. Hello, gorgeous. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so blessed to be here. I'm so grateful we got to reconnect and look at all that we're doing already together. Two empowered women connecting, uplifting each other.
Absolutely, and I love
Yes.
it. Thank you for reaching out. And thank you. I mean, what are the odds that she was coming back to Dubai? And I'm like, okay, you're coming this day. I have an event I'm hosting, I'm emceeing at, and so date. I would love you for you to come. And she was like, oh, that's good, great. I'd like to be there. And apparently, another of her friend was the speaker at this event, and her friend was also inviting her for the same event. And she was like, oh my God, which one am I going to go? Who am I going to say no to and yes to? And eventually she found out that it was the same event. How beautiful. And she did fantastically in capturing all the memorable moments. So thank you, darling.
Of course, it was such a pleasure. And I believe the universe connects people who are like on a similar energetic frequency, right? Like we're all empowered women, and we're stepping into helping other people to move into this space of inspiration, empowerment. So, of course, the universe would put us all together. God
Absolutely. And
bless.
honestly, the room was on fire. Gosh. I thought I was energetic and until I met Zahra. So you can imagine the energy in the room, having three of us and other
Oh,
crazy people in the room. It was just
yes.
beautiful. It was beautiful. And like you said, there's just that there are times you get in your life where you begin to attract your kind into your space, and it just begins to expand and bring you the things that you need per time or in that season of your life. So good to have you on the show.
Yay, I'm so blessed to be here.
Awesome. So, I have a way that I introduce my guests, right,
Yes.
on the show. So, we're going to do that and then we get into your story.
Okay, sounds
So,
great.
because I wasn't sure if I pronounced your name correctly, I know you taught me and we practiced this before we
We
started to
practiced it
record.
5 times before, guys.
So, I'm just going to ask you again so that you pronounce it correctly. What is your name and where are you from?
Okay, so my name is Alicia Munian, and I'm from New York, born and raised. I'm actually a first generation American. My parents were born in Guyana in South America.
Okay.
Yes.
She's beautiful, isn't she?
We're all beautiful in our own ways.
Absolutely, I agree. Nice, I love that. Okay, so what do you do? And the way I want you to answer that question is to answer it like in one sentence. Capture what you do.
Okay. Well, I think it's going to be 4 to 5 sentences.
Go for it.
So, I'm someone who has been through a long journey of healing myself. And through this journey of spiritual exploration, I began to also hold space for other people, for spiritual healings, for empowerment to overcome depression and anxiety. And then also, I've always been a tech girl. And I also do website design and marketing for people, but I also specialize in doing marketing for other spiritual entrepreneurs. So it's like this unique mix of things that I love to do. And I'm just in this space of loving what I do so much. And I also host retreats for women.
Beautiful. I think I
Yes.
was I was eavesdropping in one of her sessions.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I think you guys went to Egypt recently, right? How was
Yes.
that?
It was amazing. So we did a 10-day retreat in Egypt, and it was basically like a pilgrimage for some people to go back to this like energetic space of connecting to our ancestry and like examining the hieroglyphics and just seeing how we feel when we connect to like this ancient wisdom.
Interesting. Even though I have no clue what she's talking about. But that's interesting. Okay, so my next question for you is what is your philosophy about life?
This is a great one. So I believe that as human beings that we all see life through a different lens. I believe that it's part of our responsibility as human beings to try to understand as many perspectives of the world through the lens of other people. Like there's this ultimately underlying sense of unity through every expression of the human being. So, like, for every single faith, like Christian, Muslim, like Buddhist, Hinduism, Judaism, like at the end of the day, we all have this similar vision, this similar desire to be a genuinely good human being, to come to this earth and do something with our lives, to live in our purpose. And, there's this divisiveness that's created just by being a human being. So I believe that it's our responsibility to try to move into the space of unity, into the space of oneness. And this is my ultimate philosophy.
The other day I saw your post about that, looking at you're on a journey to exploring, the different existence or the different perspective that exists, and especially in relation to spirituality, right? Exploring it all, Christianity,
Yes.
Islam, Buddhism, and everything. I know. Just let's just stay here for a little bit. How has that journey been, and how confusing or how enlightening has it been for you?
Yes. So it's so funny because I feel like from the outside perspective, a lot of people like sometimes will comment on posts that I make like this when I talk about human unity, like, oh, how can you say that when there's so many differentiations, And when you focus on that, you focus on the divisiveness, and that's the lens that you see it through. But ultimately, when you really examine the core of all of these different religions, all of these different expressions, there is this underlying sense of unity. And for me, I've traveled so much in this exploration. I've been to Thailand, I've been to Jordan, I've been to Egypt, I've been to, so many different places in the United States as well. And through this exploration, I got the chance to meet these different religious leaders and learn from all of them and see that, at the core of it, when you meet these people, they're just genuinely good souls. When you feel good energy, it doesn't matter what religion you identify with. Oftentimes, our religion is connected to geography. We end up taking on the geography of where we were born and raised. So we kind of like grow up, all right, I was born in Thailand and everyone around me is Buddhist, so I'm going to be Buddhist. I was born in Jordan and everyone around me is Islamic, so I'm going to be a Muslim. I was born in, a different place, and I was like raised around Christians and I'm going to be a Christian. So it's like identifying what part of your belief system revolves just around your geography rather than the core exploration of the mind of your beliefs.
Wow. That's so deep. Like everything she said. But what is fascinating for me in what you just said and your perception about it is the open-mindedness with
Yes.
which you went on this journey. So no judgment, no reservations, just like I just want to learn and just know about all of this different but how does that then place you as a person? Do you
Yes.
then have like, okay, after, I mean, you're still on your journey of exploration, but generally do you then have like a hold on where you stand, or is still like, oh, I'm not sure?
Yes. So, like, I identify as what's called a spiritualist. So, a spiritualist is someone who does believe in an afterlife and they also believe in past lives. It's kind of like a mixture of different belief systems. And I've really formulated my own belief systems based on different philosophers that I've read about, based on my own meditations, and based on my own inner exploration. And honestly, I believe in a little bit of all religions. And a lot of people say, like, oh, doesn't that conflict each other? But yes, it does. But at the same time, you could kind of choose what you in your core, in your spirit, in your soul, feels like resonates with you. Because, right, every single religious text, someone wrote that, like there was a person, a human being that wrote this. And as human beings, we're inherently flawed, right? And whenever, like, it comes to like corrupt religions or corrupt things that have happened in religions, there's people who are like, oh, I can't believe in this religion because this type of person is cruel. But ultimately, every single religion at some point was flawed. Every single religion at some point was going around killing people, every single one. And it's like when you turn to that place of extremism, that's when it gets into that. But when you step into the place of moving back into space of openness, you can really see that every single religion at its core is about being a human being, is about being a beautiful person for the world, is about making an impact, is about serving God, serving this energy that we don't know what its name is. And at the end of the day, whoever's right, if there is even a right, we still all come from the same energy.
I agree with you on that last part, that we all come from the same source. Because that's my own belief point. And for me personally, I really don't like going deep into the conversation of religion and
Yeah.
everything. But again, I'm just like, not on the fence, but also just like being like open minded, like you said,
Yes.
just to say, you know what, truly, I wouldn't say I can speak in depth as you have. Because, for example, you have explored, I
Yes.
haven't. What I have is what I know. And like you
Yes.
said, I kind of resonate with what you said. I grew up around Christians. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. I believe that He is the Son of God. I believe He came to die. I believe that God created the world, by the words of His mouth, right? This is
Yes.
what I believe. This is what I hold on to. But at the same time, I'm kind of, when you try to explore, that's kind of dicey because it becomes confusing,
Yeah.
right? So for me, it's kind of safe to, like, you know what, this is what I know, this is what I've been exposed to, this is what I've delved into to study,
Yeah.
and this is what I'm sticking with. But it's
Yes.
interesting as well to see you like going out and exploring all the different religions to see
Yes.
what is there and coming to this conclusion that, you know what, at the end of the day, we all have this center from which we sprung up from. And
Yes.
then it's like, again, for me, all I hear with that philosophy is to say that God is the center of it all,
Exactly.
but He actually has different
Expressions.
expressions.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's
And
about.
so it feels like it's where you stand, or from the point of view
The
which you
perspective.
see Him,
Yes.
then you like glean from. But apparently or
Exactly.
ultimately, we all still come from that
You
one source, which is God.
got it. Oh
I know,
wow,
like
we got
somebody.
so deep here and we just started. So, one of my favorite philosophers, his name is Alan Watts, he says that we all view the universe through an aperture, right? So, for those of you who know photography,
Photography.
yeah, an aperture is like the lens, exactly what you were saying, right? So, the religions are different lenses of seeing God, right? And this is like something that's really deep. And one thing that I'll say too is not everyone has the privilege to do this deep exploration that I have. And not everyone's mind thinks in this capacity. Like ever since I was younger, I was always interested in like so many different eccentric things, and I was always on this exploration of discovering and knowing the universe and the world. But not everyone has the privilege to do that. And if you feel comfortable in whatever you grow up with, like be in that space, allow yourself to celebrate the expression of God that you love, but know that there's other people also celebrating their expression of God. So this is what it's about. You don't have to actually like start reading all of their texts and diving into it, but what you can do is meet them at a place of tolerance and understand that they're coming from the same place that you are, which is knowing and loving God in their own way.
Oof, that is so deep,
Yes.
girl. That is
Oh.
so deep. Honestly, it speaks of the love of
Yes.
God. Like, God is love. And so, for you to be able to even get into the head of another person, you've got to be able to tolerate, and from a place of acceptance, not from a place of judgment. At least
Yes.
get to hear them out first. See
Exactly.
what their perspective is. Have yours. Have conversation. Like, that's why I hardly get into arguments. Like, there's no
Yes.
point. You have
Yes.
your perspective, I have mine,
Exactly.
but in the center of it all, we can still relate as
Yes,
humans.
yes. And what I'll say too is that there's just a lot of rhetoric, right? Whatever place that you come from, there's always that fear of the other person, you know? It's like, ooh, I don't know what they're into. I don't know what they're studying. I don't know what they're doing. And then, like, there's even a dialogue in the media to create this divisiveness, right? Like, you're like, oh, that side is like extremist or this side is wrong, you know? So it's like also understanding how our mind has been conditioned to kind of almost be against this person, right? But then when you come from a space of what the true energy of God is, which is ultimately love, acceptance, and openness, then we can have this deep appreciation for one another and move towards human unity.
Whoa. And we haven't even started to listen to her story. Interesting. So finally, my final question to you is tell us one fun thing about you. I think one of the fun thing is the fact that you're an explorer, but tell us another fun thing about, like, really fun thing about you.
I would say there's a lot of fun things about me. I don't know. I'm a bubbly, effervescent girl. Like, you know, I think most people don't recognize how deep my conversations can go. And this is like one thing that I've like grappled with in my life, right? Like they automatically see me, they're like, all right, she's like bubbly, she's happy, and like they just like stop there. But like what I would say is like so many people are so much deeper than how you perceive until you have a conversation with them. That's why I love what EJ is doing, because she's giving people a platform to speak and to dive in. And yeah, I've been to over 30 different countries right now around the world, and I can't wait to keep exploring more and see where life takes me.
Oh,
Yeah.
so sweet. Okay, fantastic. I love your bubbly, and it's vibing with my vibe, so that's
It's
good.
vibing with your vibe.
I love it. Okay, so now let's get into the what we call it now, the shallow. In the shallow, in the shallow, la 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 low, in the shallow, la la low. We come from the shallow, no. Okay, so let us get back to the challenging moments in your life, because that's what Stretch
Yes.
Street is about. Life
Yes.
is a street that stretches you, and we all get a fair share of our stretch.
Yes.
It's just that sometimes we do not, or we haven't built capacity enough to go through the stretch without snapping. But oftentimes, and that's the beautiful thing about the human spirit, that we are far resilient that we take credit for. But again, is if you do not explore who you are, to know how far you can go, how much you can take out of life, you really wouldn't know. And so most of us just give up earlier than we should. So we come to a conclusion earlier because we have not taken time to build the resilience that we have to be able to say, you know what, whatever is coming, I can handle it, really. And most of the challenges that come to our lives is oftentimes to make us better, to help us evolve into a higher version of ourselves. So let's come to your story. What is your stretch story? And I'm curious to know from the angle of what led you to who you are today in this mindset of exploration.
Yes.
So yeah,
Well, I'm so excited to
absolutely
share.
handle it.
So, I've been through a long journey of healing myself. And this all started from generational trauma. So, when I was younger, I dealt with instances of childhood abuse. And I was physically hit as a child. And this is something that in my culture is very common. And in a lot of cultures, it's very common. But I was also in a place where I was a very sensitive child. And when I was hit, I really took this on, you know? Like I developed depression at a very young age. I remembered by the age of 9 years old, I was actually cutting myself. And I experienced extreme suicidal thoughts from a very young age. And I remember like moments of just being in despair. Like I used to like have insomnia too. Like I couldn't sleep and I would just stay up and I would say all of these terrible things to myself. And I was in this dialogue of negative self-hatred. And so often, like when we deal with abuse and trauma, we get stuck in our minds. And now I'm at the place where I have an understanding that, you know, dealing with these traumas, I actually conditioned my brain to think in this way naturally, to think in this negative pathway about myself, because that's what I was conditioned for. So, as I was growing up, my teenage years, I dealt with this really dark depression. And actually, my parents were divorced, and my mom, who I lived with, was diagnosed with breast cancer. So, as I was going through this dark period of my life, my primary caregiver, my primary parent, was battling cancer. And I had to really raise myself at a young age, you know? Like, I had an older brother, but at the same time, too, like, we weren't extremely close or anything. And I felt alone a lot of the time, honestly. And, going through this process, I really like just dug a deep hole for myself, you know? Like when you're dealing with depression, it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And um I actually, as my mom had breast cancer, she wasn't able to work the same amount that she used to. And then I started working at a bar at 16 years old, and that was my first job. And I was actually sexually harassed at this bar as well. And this was by the parents of the children who went to the school that I went to. And they used to like give me comments all the time and commentate on my chest and like all this stuff, and even like try to like touch my skirt and all of these things. And I was in an unsafe work environment at a very young age. And the person who I was working for, they didn't really care for me. There was one time that I had tripped and fallen, and I was holding like a bunch of glasses like this. It fell on the floor, and like I had a cut, and they were like, "Get up. You ruined our glasses." And they were yelling at me in front of everyone. And I, at dealing with this at such a young age, it kind of puts you in this perspective. Is this how women are treated in our society, you know? And I also, at this time, I was staying up until 3 a.m. to work in this bar. And then I had to be in school by 6 a.m. because I was actually the president of like 3 different clubs in high school, because that's who I was. I was always the overachiever, and no one had any idea that this was what I was dealing with. But let me tell you exactly what I was talking about before. God sends you opportunities. God sends you exactly what you need. So I was working at this place, and one day, like someone who was running for legislator was hosting a fundraiser at this bar, and he came up to me. He said, "You look too young to be working here. I could tell that you're too young, and you're also too intelligent to be working at a place like this." And he gave me his business card, and I saw that he was running for office, and I did an amazing job at like hosting his fundraiser. And then he gave me an amazing tip, and he was like, "I want you to work for me this summer. You don't deserve to be working here." At that time, I was so self-conscious and so still depressed that I didn't believe that I could do this and work for this person, even though this opportunity was handed to me in my hand. The next week, there was an event at my school, and remember how I told you I was the president of 3 clubs? So one of the things that I was part of is like the debate club. And we were doing a debate in the main hall, like in the auditorium, and I did a speech. And right after I did the speech, I came off the stage, and then the same person who's running for legislator came up to me. He's like, "I remember you. I'm not going to tell anyone your secret. I saw what you did up there. That's not something that anyone can do." He gave me his card again. He was like, "You're starting to work for me next week." So that summer, I started working for him on his campaign, and I finally, like, just started believing myself, right? And there was this opportunity that was sent by God to me, and I started working so hard for this person. And I also got to make an impact in the community. We were doing things like giving back to the community, hosting food drives, and all of this stuff. And I started to step into this energy of belief. And that summer, I had gone away to college after he ended up winning the election, and
Oh.
he like said that I was like one of the best energies that came into his life at this time because he like felt my presence, he
How
felt
old
my
were you at the
energy.
time?
So I was like, at that point, I was like 17. Yes. And I worked so hard during that summer, and he respected me so much, and he helped me to get out of that space. And he's since then run for Congress, and I actually helped him last summer, and he's doing amazing now, and I'm so proud of him and all of the things that he's doing. His name is Carrier Solage, but so basically that summer I ended up going away to college, and this was always a dream of mine. And my mom ended up recovering from cancer, which I'm
Oh,
so
she's a
blessed for that. Yes,
survivor.
she's a
Oh, that's so
survivor.
sweet.
She's journeying around the world with me now. So, when I went away to college, this is when I really began to experience like almost PTSD. Like, I started to relive all of these experiences that I had, and I was in this place of basically like holding on to all of this pain that I experienced. And I was in the place of like victimhood. That's the best way to describe it. I was like, why did this happen to me? Why would the universe put me through all of these situations? And I kept digging that hole deeper.
But what triggered you? Because I mean, at this point, things seem to be going well for you.
Yes.
So what triggered you to start
Yes.
going and holding on to the
Yes.
past?
So the thing is, like they say, when you leave the environment, because that was the first time I moved away from my home, that's what really triggered me. Was like I was finally independent, and I got the opportunity to reflect on my life. And because of that, I entered into this dark space. It's
Wow.
like they say, when you're in it, you could see it, but like,
You
you're
can't explain it.
you can't explain it. Exactly. This is also why when people are in war spaces of war, and then they experience PTSD when they go back home. You know what I mean? It's like when you move yourself out of that environment, because when you're in it, you're in survival mode, but when you're out of it, then
Feels
you're
like
in
you don't know how to,
reflection.
yeah,
You don't
like
know
I'm
how to
like,
grapple with it.
yeah.
Exactly.
Wow, I see.
So I was reliving all of these traumas, and I actually in college wrote a 9-page suicide letter.
Oh, wow.
Like I was at the place of completely being done with my life. And for me, it's so crazy, right? Because I was in this place of extreme darkness where I could take two roads, the end or the beginning. And I actually had this very deep spiritual experience. So one day I was laying in my dorm room, and I was crying, and I was just like, I just want to end it all. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing with my life. And I just felt like really trapped by this sadness. And that's the best way to describe it. And I remembered having locked my dorm room door, and my roommate was gone for the weekend, and I went to lay down in my bed. And I went to take a nap, and then I woke up in the nap, and my eyes were filled with tears. And I remembered like that my door was like a little bit open, and I remembered seeing a light coming in from the door. And I got up, and then I just saw this like white light figure standing in my doorway. And it said to me, "Don't worry, Alicia, everything is going to be okay." When I received this message, I can tell you that I felt the most peace I've ever felt in my life. And I just felt this like energy of depression like lift off of me. So the figure or whatever disappeared, but the door was still open. And I cleared my eyes of the tears, and I got up, and I was like, who was that? And I went to go over to my door, and I was like trying to put the pieces together, right? Because it's like, wait, did my roommate come back? Like,
Were
was
you
that my
dreaming?
neighbor? Was
Was
I
it real?
dreaming? So, right? So the door was actually open when I remembered clearly locking it. And we had like cement doors, like really heavy doors. So I opened the door, and there's no one in the hallway. And I walked down the hallway, and then like 2 minutes later, my roommate comes up the stairs, and I say to her, "Did you come to our room and open the door, and she actually had all of her stuff with her, like her suitcase and everything. And she said, no, like I just came up the stairs. I just got back from visiting my boyfriend. And then she like went back to the room, like didn't pay me any mind. And I sat there for a second and I said to myself, I was by myself, what just happened? And I heard in the back of my head, you were visited by an angel.
Wow.
And I just felt this energy of being supported by God in a way that I've never felt before. And being in such a dark space in my life, like I've always like grappled with like almost like agnostic views, like kind of atheist views, you know?
Like there was no God.
There was no God, yeah. And I had this experience and I suddenly felt something different. I felt this like protection. I felt this energy. And I was actually going to a Catholic school. So I ended up seeing like one of the priests there, and I told him about this experience, and he said, you were visited by an angel. Like that's your experience, you know, like hold that experience in your heart. Ever since this moment, I've experienced so much synchronicities is what I call it. It's like things of the universe of just God showing his support for you. So I ended up like trying to see a therapist about like my depression and things like that. And they ended up prescribing to me like all of these different antidepressants. As I was walking out with the prescription slip for all these antidepressants, I end up bumping into my philosophy teacher, and she had in her hand a book, and it was called Peace is in Every Step by Thich Nhat Hanh. And I took this book in my hand, and I had in one hand the prescription slips, and in the other hand this book. And this book was about mindfulness and meditation. And I remembered like hearing in the back of my head the same way that I heard you were visited by an angel. It said to me, peace is your answer. Peace is here. So I began to read this book, and I never ended up filling that prescription. And I read about meditation, I read about mindfulness, I read about neuroscience and how you can reprogram your brain to overcome depression and anxiety.
Wow.
And I started to commit myself to the path of healing. I started to commit myself to finding God in my own way through every expression. First, starting again from Christianity, because that's how I was raised. I also love Jesus, you know? I really started to know Jesus and know this love, and it was so empowering. I went to the Hillsong Church. I listened to all of this music, and I found this reinvigoration of love for God. First starting from Christianity, and then as I began to expand, I was like curious about Buddhism, you know, because I was studying meditation, and I started to branch into that as well. And I actually went to Thailand, and I studied with a monk to learn about meditation.
Wow. This is interesting.
Stretch Street Podcast.
So as I went to Thailand and I started this exploration of going into Buddhism, of going into exploring like what it's like to be a spiritual person through the different lenses of the world, I was finding this healing for myself. I was finding this truth within myself that I was always connected to God. That like my journey, even though it was so hard when I went through it, it was like these cracks of trauma that's what shaped me into who I am today. There's like this Japanese concept of like when something is broken, you fill it with gold, right? And this is the same thing with your traumas. This is an opportunity for the light to come in, for you to reach the ultimate place of forgiveness, for you to reach the ultimate sense of loving your life, of loving what the universe has given you. And it was so powerful for me to step into this place of being like, I don't want to be here on this earth I love every aspect of this earth. I want to know every sense of God. I want to be one with the earth. And it's been such a deep journey, you know, like starting from this place of real darkness to embodying so much light. And this is the journey of the human being. We all have our hero's journey. We all have the street that we're walking down and discovering ourselves through this beautiful journey, through this beautiful exploration. And I'm so blessed to now be in this space of like confidence and light, and also understanding how the universe works, you know? Like, I feel like, you know, the law of attraction is real, and almost every single religion has a concept about this too. It's about being a good person, and God is going to give back to you. The universe will respond to you. Whatever faith you believe in, there are ultimate truths that connect us all, and this is really the core of what this is about. It's about you finding whatever road it is. You don't need to explore all of them like I do. This is my story, you know, and don't feel bad for not exploring them all. But you have to know that, you know, everyone is finding their own truth, and everyone is right in their own way.
Okay, so that, woof, this is a lot to unpack for me right now. Like a lot, honestly, a lot is going on in my head. I'm like, I feel like
It's because your mind is breaking open. It's like any like barrier of the mind. It's like boop, 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 boop.
It feels more like a battle. Like,
Yeah.
no,
You're like,
no,
you
no,
see it,
you
and
know,
I do it, and
yeah,
I don't,
like,
and I do it, and I don't. That's what it's like. But that's a journey of being uncomfortable with thinking beyond the barriers of construct that we've been taught.
That is a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love what you said when you said this is your story.
Yes.
And, you know, that freedom to actually share.
Yes.
I am still in conflict with the
Yes.
concept of your truth, my truth,
Yes.
their truth.
Yes.
What is truth?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I'm still in conflict
Oh,
with
good.
that.
Okay, I'm glad you asked this question.
Yes,
of
I'm still
course I have an answer.
I'm still in conflict with that because, again, from my own lens
Yes.
and my own belief system, you
Yes.
know, which is
There's only one
Christianity,
way.
exactly.
Yes.
Like, this is the truth that I know.
Yes.
So,
Yes. So what I'll say to this, there's a difference between subjective and objective truth. So subjective truth, right, is through the lens of which you understand the world. Objective truth is actually something in theory that can't be fully attainable because of how much we're unable to grasp of the world and the universe, right? Like through human knowledge, there's only limited perspectives that we can see. There's still so much that we don't know about science, so much that we don't know about spirituality, so much that we don't know about even the origins of our own religion, and so much has been shifted over time throughout history. So, right, there's this understanding that it's okay to accept your subjective truth and for that to be your reality.
wow. Girl, you are truly on an exploration. It shows in the confidence with which you share, you know, your thoughts, your ideas, and the things you found out on your journey. So now let's come back to the crux of the matter is through this journey of coming from darkness into light and now into exploring what life is all about, how the universe works, you know, how God works and everything. What are some lessons that you have learned in your journey?
Yeah. One thing I would say, the ultimate lesson is the lesson of forgiveness. This is something that everyone can be united by. Like, we've wronged people and we've been wronged by people.
Sure.
We are inherently flawed human beings unintentionally. This is important because a lot of the times we don't even realize the traumas that we're passing down to other people. A lot of the times we don't even realize how we could be harming another human being if we're good intentioned human beings. So there's this understanding that we are trying our best to learn to understand, and through the lens of forgiveness, this is how we're ultimately able to connect to one another.
Wow. Forgiveness. I love that one.
Yes.
Yes. And isn't it just it's interesting, like you said, there's a connection to everything. Because I mean forgiveness is also one of the biggest concept in Christianity.
Yes.
Knowing that we've been forgiven.
Yes.
And it's because of that forgiveness through the blood of Jesus, that we're able to step up, and have this relationship with God. And it's
Yes.
a consistent journey, knowing that we are flawed people. We are
Yes.
not perfect, and the world is already imperfect and broken. The only perfect person is God Himself.
Yes.
And so living through that forgiveness, knowing that, oh, I have been forgiven because of the sacrifice of Jesus, right? And knowing that and accepting that and
Yes.
living fully and freely,
Exactly.
knowing that I am forgiven. And so
Yes.
because I am forgiven, I have the liberty and the strength to actually forgive others, no matter how deep the hurt, no matter how deep the wrong that they've done to me. That is such a beautiful lesson to have learned
Yes.
all through your journey as you keep exploring. Honestly, I celebrate you. I salute your courage to explore. Like you said, not all of us have the capacity, or not all of us want to
Do
even
it. Yeah.
like want to
It's not
explore.
everyone's turn.
Yeah, like no, let me just be safe. I don't want my
Yes.
head turned upside down. Nope,
I
nope,
love
nope.
turning my head upside down. This is like what I live for.
But honestly, I've also at least seen, but maybe not have a deep conversation like this with people who I know are just open to exploring all sort of things. And I'm just, I hope, hopefully, I'll get to meet somebody who has gone all through and come back and say, you know what, this is where it all ends for me, and to know what they found out, or what
Yes.
they think about life and existence and humanity. But thank you so much,
Yes.
Alicia,
It was
for
such a blessing. Thank you for
sharing your
having
story
me.
and sharing your lessons about forgiveness, and for forgiving
Yes.
the people who have hurt you so far. And I hope that you keep forgiving, because again,
Yes.
we'll
It's
keep
a constant journey.
exactly, we'll keep
It's a
stepping on
never
people's
ending
toes
journey.
and having people step on our toes. But we just know that in that place of, what, I'm not perfect, so I can as well just forgive this person. And there's a freedom that comes with it, really, just not holding on to hurt, because it's
Yes.
a weight. And yeah, thank you for sharing your
Of
experience
course.
with us.
Yeah, I'm so
All right,
grateful.
guys. So if people wanted to connect with you and say, what is she all about? Like, what does she do?
Yes, there's
I
a
want
lot
her
of
to work on
things.
my website.
Hmm.
I want to go on one of her retreats. How can people connect with you?
Yes. So I also do one-to-one spiritual healings as well. So like helping people to grapple with, forgiveness and, basically like deeper levels of trauma healing as well. So you can connect to me on Instagram. My name is Alicia Munian, and I would love to connect to you.
Awesome. So I'm going to leave the link to her Instagram account in the description of this video, as well as of the audio podcast, so you can connect with Alicia and go explore, if exploration is part of what you can do. Thank you so much for being a part of today's episode. Till I come your way again next week with yet another story, and just knowing that challenges are not exclusive to any of us. We all go through them, but the important thing is for us to pay attention enough to know what the challenge is there to teach us, and learn and grow from it. Okay? Counting down to 150, July 14th. Don't forget, if you want to be a part of the celebration, to be live and direct with me broadcasting for 150 minutes, please send me an email to stretchstreetpod@gmail.com. I love you.
I'm your official
Hi,
hype girl.
love it, right? So send me an email, join the the celebration. And if you're here in Dubai, join the party on the 14th. Details will be distributed soon. All right, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thank you for watching today's episode. I really do hope that you found it valuable. All right, if you did, please visit us again next week when we will put out another episode. In case you forgot at the beginning or at the middle, now is a good time to click on the subscribe button, turn on notifications so that you don't get to miss any of our episodes. All right, till we come your way again next week, remember also to read the description of this video for any links that might be there that would help you, or also help you support the work that we do here. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye bye.